Hello and welcome to this edition of Clear Thinking Digest. I'd like to thank you for joining me here today. Ugochukwu here, but you can call me Ugo. In one of my last videos, I talked about speaking your truth, the importance of speaking your truth. And in that video, I mentioned that your truth is actually your message. And that it is more important for you to focus more on substantiating your message than on validating your message. And I went ahead to discuss the reasons behind that. So you can find details of that video in this link up here. So today I want to talk about how you can substantiate your truth. You know, it is important for us to understand that your message is the value that you are providing to the world. That's what your message is all about. And in my book, An Exercise in Clear Thinking, I define value as anything that is sufficiently useful to life. So you would ask, what do I mean by that? What does it mean to be sufficiently useful to life? In life, the most fundamental principle is growth. The most fundamental principle in life is growth. Everything in life is geared towards growing. It's geared towards reproduction. So this growth can appear, it can happen in form of evolution. You can see it in the reproductive process in almost every life form. You see it in human beings, you see it in the cells and how they reproduce. You even see it in the very basic survival instincts in animals and on different life forms. Everything in life is geared towards propagating growth. That is the most important factor in life. And so anything that obstructs this growth process in life is a friction. And every friction creates a void. And every void creates a need. You get that? So anything that sufficiently reduces this friction in life is a value. In the same way that anything that sufficiently fills the void, the need that has been created by any kind of friction is a value. So value from this perspective is now anything that is sufficiently useful to life. So it therefore means that value is anything that sufficiently fills the void or reduces the friction that obstructs growth process in life. So it's important for us to understand these factors when defining life. If you are able to understand it from this perspective, then it gives you a better perspective. It gives you a better understanding of what is involved as you try to organize your message and give it out to people in the world. So your message in itself is a value that you're giving to the world. Now, for your message to provide a value that is sufficiently useful to life, it has to provide a solution that sufficiently takes care of the problem that it wishes to solve. How is it going to do that? And that is the crux of my message in this video. For any value to provide a solution that is sufficiently useful to life, it has to have a clear interpretation of that problem that it wishes to solve. Let me come again. For any value to provide a solution that is sufficiently useful to life, it has to provide a clear interpretation of the problem in question. So what it means is that the level of interpretation, the level of clarity that goes into your interpretation of a problem determines to a large extent the sufficiency of the solution that you will deliver to that problem. So what does this mean in your delivery of your message? What it means is that for you to be able to substantiate your message, which is a value that you're promising to the world, you have to a large extent make sure that you have clearly defined the issues, the factors, the ingredients that go into the problem that you wish to solve. You have to provide a clear interpretation of the problem. So what does it mean to provide a clear interpretation of a problem? To clearly define a problem, to clearly interpret a problem, you need to go down to its most basic ingredients, the most basic factors and elements that make up that problem at its basics. You have to go down to these factors and you have to make sure that you understand the ingredients, the factors that are involved before you can provide a clear interpretation of a problem, which will now allow you to provide a sufficient solution to the problem. To understand how this can be applied in real life scenarios, Let me draw your attention to what happened in 2010 when Apple released the Apple iPad. Before 2010, many companies in the world, companies like Microsoft, we are releasing different forms of gadgets that they wanted to serve like something that looked like the iPad. And so there were versions like netbooks, there was Microsoft Slate PCs, there were different pocket PCs in the market. But there was a problem. The problem was that people weren't actually buying these products. And so what happened? Why weren't people buying them? What happened was that even though these products came before the Apple iPad, people did not engage these products because these products didn't sufficiently solve the problem that they promised to solve in the market. And so up until the iPad came, these gadgets were in the market, but people weren't buying them. People weren't using them because they didn't provide a solution that was sufficient enough to attend to the problems that they sought to solve. Until Apple released its iPad in 2010. And when Apple released its iPad, the sales of the iPad surpassed market projections and reached a record high during from 2010 up until 2019. Even in 2020, Apple was still witnessing a huge amount of sales from its iPad. So what made Apple become so successful? What made the launch of the iPad so successful? I believe that what actually made iPad so successful comes basically down to how Apple defined the problem that it wanted to solve in the market. So I'm going to allow you to take a look at this short clip to see how Steve Jobs, at the launch of the iPad, introduced the iPad and how he defined the problem that the iPad was going to solve.
And so all of us use laptops and smartphones now. Everybody uses a laptop and or a smartphone. And the question has arisen lately, is there room for a third category of device in the middle? Something that's between a laptop and a smartphone. And of course, we've pondered this question for years as well. The bar is pretty high. In order to really create a new category of devices, those devices are going to have to be far better at doing some key tasks. They're going to have to be far better at doing some really important things. Better than the laptop, better than the smartphone. What kind of tasks? Well, things like browsing the web. That's a pretty tall order. Something that's better at browsing the web than a laptop? Okay. Doing email. Enjoying and sharing photographs. Video, watching videos. Enjoying your music collection. Playing games. Reading ebooks. If there's going to be a third category of device, it's going to have to be better at these kinds of tasks than a laptop or a smartphone. Otherwise, it has no reason for being. Now, some people have thought that that's a netbook. The problem is, netbooks aren't better at anything. They're slow, they have low-quality displays, and they run clunky old PC software. So they're not better than a laptop at anything, they're just cheaper. They're just cheap laptops. And we don't think that they're a third category device. But we think we've got something that is. And we'd like to show it to you today for the first time. And we call it the iPad.
So there you go. Take a look at how Steve Jobs, in this clip that you just watched, defined the problem that the iPad was going to solve. He defined the iPad as a third category device that was going to be better than the iPhone and the laptop at key basic tasks. And of course, he went on to define what those key basic tasks were. So you would understand that from his definition of these key basic tasks, that goes to a large extent to show you that they have gone down to the basic ingredients and the factors and the elements that was going to make up the solution the iPad was going to bring to the market. And they were able to understand what the market actually needed. So they went down to the most basic factors that were involved, the most basic issues that were involved, and they were able to attend to these issues. And this is what made the iPad stand out in the market. Up until the time this video was recorded, Apple still enjoys the lead market share in the iPad market. So this goes to show you why it is important for you to clearly interpret a problem very well. And you see that this culture of clear interpretation of a problem runs through in all of Apple products. Take a look at the iPhone, take a look at the Macintosh, take a look at even the MacBooks, how they go ahead to clearly interpret a problem. And they interpret it so well that the clarity of their interpretation can really be seen in the finished products that they deliver to the market. So I usually tell people the problem that you have, and this is what many people suffer from. We usually think that the problem is an engineering problem, that the problem with design, that the problem we have in the market is either a marketing problem or an engineering problem or a design problem. In most cases, as a matter of fact, 90% of the time, the problem that we witness in our personal lives, the problem that we witness in our business, the problem that we witness in our careers are usually not problems that deal with features. They are not usually problems that deal with marketing or sales or even design. They are the problems that come from the basics of the issue that we are attending at hand. They are the problems of interpretation. And once you get it wrong, in any field that you are, in any business that you are, in any endeavor that you are engaged in, once you get it wrong at the level of interpretation, whatever it is that you're going to do is going to be wrong. So this goes to a large extent to show us the importance of clear thinking in whatever it is that you're doing. So this is my message to you today. Try as much as possible in delivering your message to the world to understand that your message is of value to be delivered to the market. And as a value, your message has to be sufficiently useful to life. It has to reduce to the barest minimum the level of friction that is involved in that area that you're proffering the solution. And to do that, it has to fill a void. It has to solve a need. And that any need that is going to be solved has to be sufficiently solved. The solution that you're delivering to any need has to be a solution that is sufficiently useful to that need. Else, you would notice that whenever a competitor comes up with a solution that is much sufficient, the person is going to knock you off the market. And this is the problem that we usually see with monopolies and competitors. Monopolies are companies that have sufficiently addressed the problem so well that they have a sufficient solution to that problem that their competitors really cannot match. So if you really want to brush off competitors, if you really want to put out competitors, try as much as possible to build in that in your solution that you're proffering to the market. If your solution is sufficient enough, your competitors will find no ground, will have no place in the market. So this is my message to you today. In delivering your message, try as much as possible to make sure that the message that you're delivering to the market provides a sufficient value to the market. And for you to determine this, you have to go through this process that I have outlined for you. Make sure that the solution that you're proffering is sufficient enough. And for you to do that, you have to make sure that you've clearly interpreted the problem that you're seeking to solve. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you've got any questions or any comments based on what I've explained on this video, please drop it on the comments. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that when next I release any video, you will be the first to know.